Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As you know, we're again seeing changes in the course of the pandemic and the public health actions being taken to help prevent its spread. We're keeping our focus on paying people benefits as well as helping people find work and employers find qualified workers. We remain committed to helping workers and businesses with what they need, even as what they need continues to change with the shifting course of the pandemic and economic recovery. Over the course of the last 14 months, the Oregon Employment Department has played a critical role in supporting our economy by aiding those whose livelihoods were impacted by the pandemic. We've helped more than 500,000 unemployed workers get access to critical benefits, launched a new program to provide financial help to self-employed individuals and contract workers, and helped many businesses avoid laying their staff off with our WorkShare program. As the pandemic begins to fade and the economy changes, we're still focusing on how we can help fuel economic recovery and help Oregonians overcome challenges related to employment. We're fortunate to have an excellent research division that can give us the objective data and analysis we need and that others also rely upon to see how to best help businesses and workers. April's unemployment rate remains unchanged in Oregon at 6%, and last month was the first month since the pandemic began that people experiencing permanent job loss were the largest group of laid-off Oregonians. Long-term unemployment has also reached its highest point in nearly 9 years. However, we are seeing record levels of job openings just 1 year after the huge job losses in the spring of 2020, and we're back to being in a relatively tight labor market much faster, 5 years faster, than we were coming out of the Great Recession. There's hope that these dynamics could provide more rapid reemployment opportunities for workers. Nationally and in Oregon, job openings have returned to pre-pandemic levels, with businesses advertising as many vacancies today as they did a couple of years ago when the economy was stronger. That means competition is strong among the available workforce, and some employers are having difficulty hiring the workers they need. As we've mentioned before, many Oregonians still face barriers to returning to work. Permanent business closures and unpredictable work schedules continue to make it hard for some, as do childcare issues and health concerns, especially for those positions that are full-time or require in-person work. And there are the more traditional barriers that many people face even when we're not in a pandemic. Those include having the job skills that employers are hiring for and having transportation to get to work. 80% of Oregon's job vacancies right now are for full-time jobs. And even during the height of the pandemic, 75% of jobs could not be done remotely even part of the time. While vaccines are now available to all adults who want them, roughly half of Oregon's adult population is still unvaccinated. That's important because in the first quarter of this year, about 45,000 would-be workers in Oregon said they were sitting out the labor market due to COVID-19 concerns. Helping businesses fill their job openings and helping people return to work is a critical part of an economic recovery, and it's also our agency's mission to support business and promote employment. We're encouraging and helping people who can work to do so without removing the safety net that is needed by others. The pandemic-related federal benefit programs have created a lifeline for people whose livelihoods were impacted by COVID-19, and we don't want those who need those valuable benefits to lose access to them before the programs end. The Employment Department continues to get needed benefits to the community, and while we are closely watching the changing economic conditions, we do not currently have any plans to end the federal benefit programs early. At the same time, we know a lot of people are looking for jobs. Some of those people may need support because their prior job no longer exists, while others may want to explore new training opportunities or discover a new career path. Over the coming weeks and months, we are ramping up efforts to support every Oregonian who can return to work. We'll be phasing back in one of our most valuable offerings, having unemployed people meet, either virtually or in person, with our WorkSource Oregon staff for one-on-one personalized help. And with the governor's emergency order expiring soon, we're rolling back the temporary requirements we were authorized to put in place at the start of the pandemic. Prior to last year's sudden surge in unemployment, federal and state unemployment laws required people to actively look for work when receiving unemployment benefits. Because of the immense novel challenges presented by the pandemic, Changes to federal law and the governor's emergency order allowed the Employment Department flexibility to significantly modify these requirements and get benefits out to those who needed them. It's important that everyone receiving regular UI benefits knows that some requirements were paused or modified during the crisis, like actively looking for work, being available for work, and registering for work in our iMatch skills system. These requirements are starting back up again, and people will need to meet those requirements by designated dates in order to be eligible to continue receiving benefits. The requirements will be reinstated in phases, beginning with registration for our job matching program, iMatch Skills. The next phase will involve one-on-one discussions with people from a local worksource center, and also ensuring that the person is available, able, and actively seeking work under the more typical non-pandemic benefit requirements. This will be a new experience for some people that are currently receiving unemployment benefits, and we want to make sure that everyone receiving benefits understands what the requirements are and knows what they will need to do in order to continue receiving benefits. We've been sharing information with claimants about iMatch Skills by email, and we'll be sending out more information soon. As we phase back to the more normal benefit requirements over the next couple of months, we'll continue providing information about these requirements with clear instructions and key dates. Because of COVID-19, the guidance around it and our economic situation continues to change, and there may be other changes as we turn back to the more common benefit program rules. We'll communicate this information often, including to people receiving PUA, a temporary benefit program that didn't exist before the pandemic and doesn't follow many of the normal UI benefit rules. We're also in the process of creating a resource page on our website to further help people return to work, and that is anticipated to be available to the public soon. Employers who would like more information about what these changes mean and how the Oregon Employment Department is partnering with the rest of WorkSource Oregon to support businesses, we invite you to attend an informational webinar on returning to work next Tuesday, May 25th at 1 p.m. There's more information and registration available at unemployment.oregon.gov/webinars. And I'm pleased to announce today that contract work for our modernization project is set to kick off in July. The project has successfully fulfilled the requirements outlined by the state's oversight process, and we received Stage Gate 3 endorsement from the state's Enterprise Information Services and the Legislative Fiscal Office. The state's Department of Administrative Services finalized the contract and issued a notice to Fast Enterprises to proceed with the work described and scheduled in that contract, and we can now officially start transforming our unemployment insurance system while laying the groundwork for the new paid family and medical leave insurance program. We're very excited to reach this important milestone and move forward on the path toward improving the experience of the people that we're helping. Our modernization team has already started working with Fast Enterprises staff to prepare for the project, which will officially kick off in July. The project will have two phases, focusing first on unemployment insurance tax and paid family medical leave insurance contributions, which is expected to be in place in the fall of 2022, with ongoing improvements being made over time. The next phase will address technology and processes that support the payment of unemployment insurance benefits, and that is expected to begin paying benefits by early 2024. We're committed to improving the experience of all Oregonians who seek our services. We'll be using the lessons that we've learned since the start of this pandemic as a guide, and we'll also be taking great care to ensure that this project does not impact our ability to continue paying unemployment benefits to people. And of course, we'll be sharing more updates as the project continues to unfold. Earlier this week, Governor Brown signed into law House Bill 3178, which builds on 2020's Senate Bill 1701 that expanded benefit eligibility to more people who work part-time. Under last year's legislation, although it allowed many people to earn more without it reducing their weekly benefit payments, part-time workers who earned more in a week than their normal benefit amount were not considered unemployed, and so were not eligible for benefits, even if their earnings in that week were less than $300. House Bill 3178 allows more part-time workers to earn up to $300 and continue receiving benefits. It helps provide incentives for people to return to work. We appreciate the Bureau of Labor and Industry's efforts on this legislation and know it will have a positive impact on many Oregonians and Oregon businesses. It will be particularly helpful for those people that are unable to work full-time. The legislation will let more people, particularly lower wage workers, get benefits as they return to work, and it applies until January of 2022. We appreciate the help from you, the media, in letting people know about this temporary but very important to many people change. And to share some information about the numbers, since March of 2020, the Employment Department has paid $9.1 billion in benefits to over 589,000 people, covering 13.7 million weeks of benefits. Included in this is about $806 million in PUA benefits paid to about 108,500 people. Last week alone, we paid a total under all the programs of $118 million to 142,000 people. And in closing, I'd like to reiterate that even as public health guidance about the pandemic changes, we're ready to help employers and workers. Our employees are critical to helping workers find good jobs and for employers to find the skilled workers they need. I appreciate their work to make sure that we are meeting everybody's needs and look forward to continuing to serve the Oregon business and worker community. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Now we are opening the lines to members of the media to ask questions. We will call on you in the order you RSVP'd. And a reminder, if you're joining us by phone, be sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. If you don't get your question answered, please email oed_communications@oregon.gov. And first up is Peter Wong with Pamplin Media.
Good afternoon, David. On the paid family medical leave, I assume the department is going to ask the legislature for delays in the statutory deadlines.
Right, Peter, there's a bill, House Bill 3398, that outlines the timelines that we believe will allow the state to successfully implement this program. We've seen how important it is. And of course, the original statutory timelines were created before a lot of work had been done to see exactly what would be needed to build the technology and the work processes and everything else to make it successful from the day it becomes available to the public. And importantly, that was also before the pandemic. So we've been able to do a lot of work to see how quickly we can get that stood up in a way that it will be ready to serve people the way they expect. And it looks like those dates are in House Bill 3398, which we'll be working with the legislature on.
Okay. And just to clarify, the couple of things you plan to start with, will they be part of the modernization project? Because I think you talked about the modernization project and then went into paid family medical leave, and I wasn't sure if those two aspects, the unemployment insurance tax and the contributions, are part of the first phase on the modernization.
Sure, that's a great question. And for the contributions for paid family and medical leave insurance, that is going to be part of that same modernization effort. And that's really an important win for the people that will use the system. Most people that will be either businesses or self-employed workers or tribal members who opt into the program. And what that means is that Oregon has a combined payroll reporting system that the Employment Department administers in coordination with the Department of Revenue and the Department of Consumer and Business Services. Even though this is an entirely new program with new reporting requirements, this will allow us to incorporate all that reporting into the same system. So when people go to file their reports, it will be a single seamless system that they're using, much easier and more user-friendly. And it also lets us make all those changes that businesses might be seeing at once. So those will all be rolled out as part of that modernized system. We're still working through a lot of the details on the benefit system to know exactly how that technology part will be delivered.
Okay, that makes sense, because obviously most of the employers who are already paying in for unemployment insurance obviously are going to be paying in for the family medical leave. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Mike Rogaway with the Oregonian.
Hey, David. You got a lot of news today. The change in the rules for what people have to do to qualify. I guess, among other things, they haven't had to actively look for work up until now. Is that right?
That's true. We in most states really significantly changed and largely paused the normal requirements that most people getting unemployment benefits need to do to actively look for work. And we're actively phasing in, kind of shifting back towards the pre-pandemic requirements. And we're doing that, as I mentioned, in phases and over time to make sure that we can provide the customer service as best as is possible with a huge number of people that are going to be looking to us, not just for benefits, but also for help finding new jobs. And also that we can educate people about what those requirements are and really match them up with the types of jobs that businesses are seeking to find workers for right now.
All right. Why do it now? And what effect do you think that will have on the number of people who qualify for unemployment benefits?
We're doing it now because we're kind of at that inflection point where we're seeing, as we've seen with the public health news about guidance around the virus and the increasing rates of vaccinations, that a lot of the economy really is opening up. And we still have a large number of people that can't get back into the workforce right now, or that are facing particular barriers that we've mentioned. Childcare, health concerns about exposure to COVID-19, which is still certainly out there, a number of other things. But at the same time, businesses are, in some cases, having difficulty finding workers. So we want to start phasing back in, and we have been doing that. In terms of the impact that it will have on the number of people eligible, ideally, it will have really little impact on how many people are eligible. What we hope it will do is that it will make sure that everybody knows about the tools and resources that we and our WorkSource partners have to help people find jobs, careers, training opportunities. So that should decrease the number of people receiving benefits because they're actually getting back to work in jobs that fit. And importantly, our WorkSource partners can help identify the barriers that some people might be having to being able to work and work to try to find resources to overcome those barriers. Well, there probably are some people who may not be meeting all of the eligibility requirements. Our approach is to educate people to make sure they know what the requirements are and to give them an opportunity to do that and make it clear that if they meet those requirements, they continue to be eligible for benefits, and we want to provide that safety net to them while they continue to look for work.
Thank you.
Next up is Keaton Thomas with KATU. Keaton Thomas. Okay, I will work to unmute you. There we go. Okay. Go ahead, Keaton.
All right, there we go. Hello. I guess my first question is just related to the jobs report. We've been seeing significantly more jobs over the past few months. This one being low seemingly matches up with what we saw at the federal level nationally. What do you think that this means going forward for just the economy in general?
It's really hard to say. I think that we're still on an improving trend. At the start of the pandemic, we saw certainly, we've talked a lot about how it was like a switch being flipped of how dramatically and severely the economy stumbled with businesses shutting down. We've seen an incredibly quick recovery also, and a number of economists had talked about it possibly being a square root recovery, where they talk about the shape of the curve, where we'd have a really dramatic recovery for a period of time, and then it would slow to a more traditional recovery. So it looks like we're on track to continue improving, but the pace won't be what it was as the coronavirus restrictions were first starting to ease. We're seeing the impact of some businesses that have shut permanently, and some just shifts in the workforce and the business environment at large also. But everything that we're seeing, there's also a lot of indicators of pent-up demand that isn't there in a traditional recession. So we're still optimistic that there will be ongoing recovery. It probably won't be at the kind of record-setting pace that we had month over month earlier in the recovery, though.
And then similarly, I wanted to ask you about getting people back to work. We've reported how some states are ending the extra benefit. I think it was Montana that is turning a benefit or the extra benefit into something like a return to work bonus. So my question for you is, while we hear from employers who say it's difficult to hire, does the state need to create an incentive for people to return to work?
I think that's something that policymakers are looking at about whether that would help. There's a number of factors. That return to work bonus is really aimed at incentives, and there are some good existing incentives, both for businesses and for workers to get back to work. There's also a lot of those barriers. And I know that besides creating return to work bonuses, there's a lot of focus nationally about what to do to address those barriers. It's childcare, it's transportation, it's predictable schedule, a lot of the things that we've mentioned. And that's where the Oregon Employment Department is one of the players in the workforce system, working with local workforce development boards and a lot of state and local partners to really see what those barriers are that are facing individuals and overcome them. The ideal solution is to really make sure that everybody that wants to go back to work can, and that will involve addressing a lot of those barriers, making childcare available. And certainly that will change as schools go back to being more full-time in person and the pandemic hopefully continues its course of easing. But so incentives can play a part. It's not a cure-all, and there still needs to be a lot of attention on identifying and removing the particular challenges that individual job seekers are seeing.